Welcome to The Pigeon. This is my 2015 Fiat Ducato. It's the 2.3 engine, and when I bought it, it had done 69,000 miles. But that is all of the boring stuff. The interesting stuff is what is going on in the back of here. And in this video, I'm going to take you through step by step everything that it took to take this van from the dirty old builder's van that it used to be to the absolute beautiful specimen that we are currently within. Plus, I'm about to take this van to the Arctic Circle. I'm literally getting on a boat tomorrow morning, so you don't want to miss that. You know what to do. But that is enough talking for now. Let's just crack on with showing you this build, and at the end of the video there's a couple of little bits that I wanted to talk to you about, some upgrades that I'm going to be doing when I get back from the Arctic, and also I just want to tell you a couple of the bits that I would have done differently if I was starting this van again. So the first job was to take out all of those wooden panels and the bulkhead, so now we're left with a blank canvas. I've removed the double passenger seat that was in there and switched that out for a single, so now there's a nice walkway so you can get straight to the cab. There was about 50 screw holes left behind from where those wooden panels are, so I've treated them for rust and I've filled them up with some sealant and a pop rivet just to prevent any future problems. I've just put the sound deadening on the walls, and this is going to take away any excessive road noise and vibration in the panels. I've left these two back ones here because that is where the windows are going in. On the floor I've used Deaden Duo by Dodo Mat. It's basically sound deadening and insulation in one easy to use product. I've just removed this metal strut here. It was up on this side panel, and that just gives me a little bit of extra usable width in the van so I can fit a full-size double bed across the back. And that is the Dodo thermo liner down on the wheel arches, all of the panels on the wall, and it's on the ceiling as well. This is just the old ply flooring back in here temporarily, but what I've just done is I've bolted these side support pieces onto either side of the van, and that just gives me a nice stable platform to mount my bed frame. And that is now the bed beams all in place, and these are fully removable, so if you need to take them out you can just pop them straight out of those brackets. Now I've used heavy duty velcro to secure these so that they can come up if I need to remove them, but at the same time they're nice and solid. That's the rear windows fitted. These are both tinted from the outside. They have this little pop out section here so you can open them, and they also have a fly screen. That is the Max Air Deluxe fan just gone in, and that is the large window fitted on the sliding door, and this one is also tinted from the outside. I've carpeted the wheel arches and I've just laid down the ply floor. Now the ply is made up of 3 pieces, and I didn't want to screw directly into the van, so I've put a tiny bit of Sikaflex under the corners of each piece to stop them sliding around, and I've fixed them all together using pocket hole joints. Then I've applied some wood filler and sanded that back to fill any holes and slight gaps between the joints, and by the time the furniture's in here and screwed down to the floor, this is not going anywhere. And that is now the vinyl floor glued down and in place. I've just put some Dodo thermo fleece in the walls for some added insulation. Now the old ply panels used to come pretty much up to the top there, but I didn't want that. I wanted separate panels. So I've cut them down with a jigsaw, carpeted them, and these have been secured in place with nothing but 4 strips of heavy duty Velcro. So once again, no need for unnecessary holes in the van. Plus I've now painted these bed support pieces black. Both of the side pillars have now been carpeted. Now I've only done them up to a certain height for now because there's still going to be shelving and some wiring going in along the top. And before I put the carpet on, I just covered over some of the larger holes with some aluminium silver tape. I've just glued these blocks to the wall, and that's just so that when the panels go up there's not going to be any flex in them if I'm leaning against them whilst I'm sat up in bed. The thermo fleece is now in place as well. So these have just been made out of the top half of the original ply, and I've just covered them in some material that I found on eBay. And once again, these are secured in place with nothing but some strips of heavy duty Velcro along the edges. I've just carpeted around the inside edge of this window frame. The thermo fleece is in, and that's the carpeted door panel in place. Now because it's on the door, it is going to be getting slammed, so I have had to screw this one in place. I've used these little grey screw caps just to make it look a bit neater, and obviously from the panel I've cut out the section for the window. And using the exact same method, that is now the rear door panels done. That is the thermo fleece and the Velcro strips in place for the main panel, and there she is. What a beauty. Now this one's been covered in a leather effect vinyl, and the bedboard is now in place. Now I'm really happy with this. I have just cut this out by hand with a jigsaw, but it's come out really neatly, and that's just been secured in place with some pocket hole joints along the floor and up the walls. And I've just used this black silicone edging which is self-adhesive just to finish off the top and the inside of the door. My kitchen pod has finally arrived. This is an induction hob. I've got a sink here as well. There's a little pop-up section on the end for extra workspace. The drawers are soft close and they won't come open whilst driving. And I've secured this down to the floor with 8 screws in total. There's also some screws that are securing it to that bedboard. And to make sure it's extra secure, there are 2 of these L brackets inside, and they are just directly attached to the B pillar on the van. I've just fitted some swivel bases to both of the front seats. And to finish the windows off, I've just fitted these blackout blinds. So that's my new fridge in place. Obviously you access it from the other side. There is a gap here, but that's purposefully done, and we'll get to that shortly. The brand new addition to the van are these Rogue alloy wheels. They've got all-terrain tyres on there to help in difficult conditions, and I've also put on these side steps. And that is now the external hookup point done, so I can charge the batteries from campsites or electric vehicle charging stations. So I've made this basic frame just out of timber, painted it black, and that has just been screwed directly into the van to give a strong fixing point. And that is now my wheel arch water tank secured to that frame. And that is my entire electrical install done. Now I've built this cabinet out of the leftover wood that I made the bedboard with, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details because that could be an entire video in itself. But just a basic rundown, that is my inverter charger. This is just an isolator switch, so you can basically shut the battery off completely. This is the Links distributor, so basically that runs out to all of the circuits in the van and connects everything to the battery. Next to that, we've got the DC to DC charger, so that's going to charge the van whilst driving. On the right hand side, I've got 2 solar chargers, and that is for different solar panels that are on the roof, so they are going to convert that energy to charge the battery as well. These are just some breakers, that's just for a bit of protection. Then next to that, we've got 2 12-volt fuse boxes, and behind of that I've got all of these plugs ready to go, so anytime I want a new 12-volt circuit in the van, I'll just plug it into one of those and send the cables out. This is the Victron Servo. It's basically the brains of the entire system, and then the heart of the system is obviously the battery. Now it's not actually connected right now, but I've tested it, it's all working fine. This is a 560 amp hour battery from Fogstar, and now that my solar panels are in place, we can top it up from the sun. The entire roof rack has just been made out of unistrut, and I've also bolted a light bar onto the front. So the plywood for the ceiling is actually going to be attached to these metal braces, but I've sikaflexed some bits of wood in between those just for a little bit of extra support. I've left gaps in the battens where the solar wires are coming through the roof, and this double one here is not only sikaflexed to the roof, but it's also screwed directly into the metal braces, and that is because that one is going to act as a support piece for my microwave shelf, which is going above the kitchen. And that is the thermofleecing covering the entire ceiling. That is the ply panels now in place, and the cables for the lights are all tucked up neatly behind these holes. And to finish it, I've just put this fabric in place, and that has been attached using spray glue. The lights are now in and connected, and I've added this max air shade, which also has some additional lighting. And that is the plumbing now complete. So we've got the filter, pump and accumulator, and that water runs up to the kitchen sink. Additionally, the cold water line splits off and it comes through here into this Truma combi boiler. Now this is a diesel heater and a water heater in one, so it sends the hot water back through and up to the tap. And this model actually runs from the diesel tank, but it also runs from electricity as well. So I've put in a plug socket down there so that I could take advantage of that when I'm on hookup. Underneath the van, I've made this contraption out of various pieces. When I turn the handle one way, I can manually dump my water, and if I keep it turned the other way, there's a button inside the van so I can dump my water automatically using a solenoid valve. I've just mounted 4 CCTV cameras to the roof. Now these are going to be running and recording 24/7, but additionally I'm going to be able to see all around the van using this split screen monitor which I have inside. My top lockers are now in place. Behind this I have insulated the wall, and then I've just screwed in some 9mm ply which I've carpeted, and these are screwed directly into that 9mm ply, and I've just put all of my body weight onto this. They're solid and they're not going anywhere. Oh, and also I've done what I said I wasn't going to do. I've actually added some screws to most of these panels. It's not that the Velcro wasn't strong enough, it's just that when you leaned against it there was a little bit of movement there, and now they're completely solid against the wall. I've now insulated and fitted the carpeted panels to the top of the walls above either side of the bed. I've also scribed out and fitted this microwave shelf which is secured not only to the wall, but also there is a batten which I left under the ceiling, so that is screwed up through the top of that. And then underneath I also have this new spice rack, and this is going to act as an additional support piece. I've started building the main side unit for the van out of 15mm ply, and I've just used pocket hole screw joints to fix it together. In the end here, the bench seat lifts up to reveal the separator toilet. This tool cupboard is going to be my wardrobe, so I've just put a wardrobe rail in there as well, and this part here also doubles up as a step to get into the bed. Now before I put it all together, obviously I boxed the trimmer in and I ran all of the ducts to the various places in the van. So I've got 3 of these vents here to let air out into the main living area. And there's a fourth one which I've temporarily run through to the garage, and this is just to stop my water from freezing up when I drive to the Arctic. I've got these traction boards now on the side of the van as backup, just in case I get stuck in any mud or snow. I've just carpeted around the back doors, and I've also carpeted the plastic panels and popped those back in place so that now I can remove those if I need to access any of the cables behind. I've also just carpeted around the edges of the bulkhead, and I've put in this plastic trim piece at the top. Along with that, there is also a plastic trim piece along the threshold. Mounted to the side of the bench seat, I've now added this multi-position table so that can be pulled out and placed wherever you like, and underneath that I've also added this cushioned seat. I've just added these custom fitted thermal blackout curtains. Now these can be unzipped at the sides, rolled to the top and kept out of the way if you want the cab area to remain open. I've also fitted them around the back doors. Now these ones drop down just about to the height of the mattress, and as you can see, these are currently in the open position. I've finished all of the furniture with this self-adhesive silicone edging. I decided to put the switch panel up here on the top of the wardrobe so I can reach it from the bed. There is also one in the cab, and these control all of the lights in the van, the dump valve for the water to come out outside, plus my CCTV and my TV as well. And talking of CCTV, that is my monitor now installed, so now I can see all around the van without having to open the curtains or get out. Plus that is my 12-volt smart TV installed up on the wall. Along the top of the sliding door, I've now added some insulation, and I've placed all of the wires in the correct places ready to be plugged in. And the final piece of the puzzle, above the sliding door I have what I call my data center. And yes, I'm aware that there's still plastic on some of these screens, but what we have here is a 5G mobile router, so that gives me Wi-Fi in the van. Next to that is the Truma controls. Next to that, this screen will control my entire electrical system. And next to that is the DVR, and that will record my CCTV footage 24/7. My air fryer is now in place. There's some aluminium heat protection behind it, plus there's a vent for the heat to escape. And along with that, I've also now installed my microwave. Various plug sockets have now been fitted into the van, so I've got two under there, I've got two below it. There are two in this cupboard here, and there's one inside this little cubby hole just for the microwave. I've also fitted some PD ports. I've built some additional storage into the gap that was next to my fridge. This is mainly going to be for water bottles, but really you could put anything you want in there. There is now some underlighting under my top lockers, which I think looks really nice on that leather wall. I've also added a downlight underneath my microwave just to light up the kitchen area. And finally, I put this switch in here for my water pump, so that is right next to the sink where I'll need it. And that brings us to the present day. Now there's a few extra little bits that I want to talk to you about, like my shower, for example, which I have down here. I'll show you that in just a sec, but for now I just wanted to mention the insurance side of things. I keep getting asked, who did I get insured with? Is it a proper campervan insurance? And the answer is yes. They insured me at the beginning of this build as a Ducato camper in conversion, and they agreed a value of what it would be worth when it's finished. And about 2 weeks after I took my insurance out, the lady rang me back, and she actually said she'd been watching my videos since I told her about the channel, and she said if I wanted, I could offer my audience a 10% discount on the quotes. So all you got to do when you ring them for a quote, just say that you saw on Ads Ventures channel about them, and then they will apply a 10% discount on that. And as for the shower situation, technically this wasn't part of the build, which is why I didn't put it in the main section, but this is my Ever shower. It's basically a shower in a box. Now a few episodes ago you might have seen that my friend Josie was kind enough to demonstrate this for us, but if not, I'll be using it myself throughout the Arctic trip. It's a recirculating shower, so it barely uses any water. I've got hot water in here as well, so hopefully I'll be able to make good use of that. So I said I would tell you the things that I would do differently if I was to do this van again. To be honest, I've been thinking about it, and there's actually only really one thing, and that was the electrics. I would have done the electrics earlier on in the build just because it was quite hard getting the wires behind some of the walls. And there's not really anything else that I'd change as such, because I am really happy with it at the moment. I'm sure I'll find things along the way, but some bits that I'm going to add to it as soon as I'm back from the Arctic trip is I need a wardrobe door, because at the moment my clothes are just going to be flapping all over the place. I also want to add some little trim pieces along the edges of the floor so that when you open up the sliding door you can't see the edge of that wood. And finally, I want to add some lighting in the bedroom area and underneath my data center that I can turn on with my voice, so I can just say lights out, lights on. As for me, I need to get home, chuck some stuff into the van. I'm so unprepared for this Arctic trip. Honestly, it's going to be a bit of a mental experience, but I hope you guys are going to stay tuned and watch that and come along for the journey with me. I want a massive thank you, as always, to anyone who's donated to the channel by buying me a brain cell through the link in the description below. The next time you see me, I will be getting on a boat with the Pigeon and the epic adventure to the Arctic will begin.